Welcome to Cheating Stories Star. My name is Michael, and for 6 years, I believed my wife's business trips were innocent. Then one small receipt changed everything. What I discovered was far darker than I imagined. Here's the story.
My name is Michael. 6 years ago, I found a receipt inside my wife's coat pocket. It was from a hotel. 2 coffees, 1 room, and a name I knew very well, her boss. I remember standing in our bedroom, holding that small piece of paper between my fingers. I didn't feel angry. Not yet. I felt something worse. Recognition, because suddenly, dozens of little moments from the previous 6 years began, connecting themselves in my head. The late meetings, the business trips, the phone calls she took outside, the birthdays she forgot, the nights she came home smelling like a hotel. I had spent years giving those things innocent explanations. That night I stopped. My wife Laura was downstairs making dinner. I folded the receipt and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I walked downstairs. She looked at me and smiled. Long day? I smiled back. Yeah. She had no idea that our marriage had just changed. And I had no idea that the receipt in my hand was only the beginning. Laura and I had been married for 12 years. When she started working for Richard, I thought nothing of it. He was successful, professional, a respected executive at the company. At first, Laura talked about him constantly. Richard wants the team to improve. Richard thinks I should apply for the promotion. Richard helped me with the presentation. I never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted my wife. Then the small changes began. Laura started buying expensive clothes for work. She suddenly cared about how she looked before every business trip. She became protective of her phone. Whenever I entered a room, she would turn the screen away. I noticed, but I ignored it. I told myself that marriage required trust. What I didn't understand was that trust without honesty becomes another form of blindness. After finding the receipt, I didn't confront her. I wanted facts, not guesses. I checked our shared calendar. There were 6 years of business trips. Some were real, some weren't. I compared them with hotel records, restaurant charges, and old emails. The pattern slowly appeared. Richard was everywhere. Chicago, Boston, Dallas. Even a weekend trip Laura had told me was a company retreat. There had been no retreat. There had only been 2 people, Laura and Richard. Still, I needed more. I couldn't destroy 12 years of marriage based on suspicion. So I hired a private investigator. 3 days later, he called me. I found something. I met him in a quiet office. He opened a folder. Photographs. Laura getting into Richard's car. Laura entering hotels. Laura leaving restaurants with him. Then came the picture that broke something inside me. They were standing outside a hotel 6 years earlier. The date matched the beginning of Laura's first promotion. Richard was holding her hand. Laura was smiling at him. Not the smile she gave me. A different one. A private one. I stared at the photograph for a long time. Then I noticed something else. The investigator had also found financial records. Richard had been transferring money into an account Laura controlled. The payments happened shortly before several of her promotions. Suddenly, the affair wasn't just about desire. There was manipulation. There was money. There was a career built on a secret relationship. And I realized I had been the only person in our marriage who didn't know the rules. I didn't confront Laura immediately. Instead, I made one final move. I told her I had received an offer to relocate to another state. It was completely false. I wanted to see what she would do. That evening, Laura called Richard. I knew because I had already arranged for the relevant records to be preserved legally. Their conversation confirmed everything. Richard was terrified that the truth would come out. Laura wasn't. She was worried about her career. That hurt more than the affair. 6 years. 6 years of lies, and when everything started collapsing, she was still thinking about work. That night, I placed every document into one folder. Hotel records. Photographs. Financial transfers. Messages. 6 years of evidence. Then I waited. The next morning, Laura sat across from me at the kitchen table. She smiled. Why are you so quiet? I pushed the folder toward her. Open it! Her smile disappeared. She looked at the first photograph. Then the second. By the third, her hands were shaking. Michael, I stopped her. How long were you planning to keep lying? She started crying. I was scared. Of what? Losing everything. I looked at her. You already did. She stared at me.
I love you.
I shook my head. No, you loved having me believe you. She couldn't answer, and for the first time in 6 years, there was nothing left for either of us to hide behind. The divorce was finalized months later. Richard's involvement in the financial arrangements was investigated by the company. Laura lost her position. But none of that felt like revenge. Revenge would have meant wanting them to suffer. I wanted something simpler. I wanted my life back. For years, I thought finding the truth would destroy me. Instead, it gave me permission to stop defending a marriage that had already been broken. One evening, I found the old wedding photograph in a drawer. Laura was smiling. I was smiling too. The date matched the beginning of Laura's first promotion. Richard was holding her hand. Laura was smiling at him. Not the smile she gave me, a different one, a private one. I stared at the photograph for a long time. Then I noticed something else. The investigator had also found financial records. Richard had been transferring money into an account Laura controlled. The payments happened shortly before several of her promotions. Suddenly, the affair wasn't just about desire. There was manipulation. There was money. There was a career built on a secret relationship. And I realized I had been the only person in our marriage who didn't know the rules.